Howdy, folks. Radical Russ, your red state refugee here, and I got to take a moment to rant about the latest shenanigans going on with the Republican Party here in the United States. The problem we've got here, and I talked about this last week, is that Republicans just don't govern. They're not good for the United States. I showed you how the economics of the United States do far better. The stock market does better. There's more job creation. The deficit goes down. So the Democrats are far better on the economic side. And of course, on the social side, there's no contest here. There's only one party that doesn't hate women and hate gays and hate trans people and hate minorities, and that's the Democrats. But if that's not enough for you, let's just take a look at what's going on here this week, even to give you an idea why Republicans should never be allowed to control Congress or the White House ever again. First of all, we can go all the way back to the fact it's not that they can't govern. It's that they don't want to govern. They have no interest in running the government in any way that benefits you and me, the common people. They are the party of the corporations. They are the party of big money. Ronald Reagan said the 9 scariest words in the English language were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." It's a fundamental disagreement on what government means. As far as I'm concerned, government is us cooperating, a way for us all to collaborate and solve our problems without resorting to violence, a way that all voices can be heard without only the strongest or richest ones being the ones in control. And I know we're a long way from that ideal, but that's the ideal Republicans are fighting for. They're conservatives. They want to conserve the way things were, when you could have power and money and take what you want and do what you want, and you wouldn't have that pesky government getting in your way. The Republicans look at government the way that Old Man Smithers looks at Scooby-Doo and the gang. "Oh, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids." And by gotten away with it, it's by paying people less, by polluting the environment, and doing whatever it takes to become richer and more powerful. Consequences be damned to people or the planet. We see it in the anti-tax activist, the conservative Grover Norquist, who once said he wanted to shrink government down to the size where it could be drowned in the bathtub. They don't want a government that helps you and me. They don't want a government that gets in the way of their acquisitions and their mergers and their pollution and their stock buybacks and their corrupt crony capitalism. The Republicans are always running on the mantra that government can't work, and then every now and then we elect them and they prove it. Take what's going on right now with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who just announced that he's going to launch an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden for the crime of, I don't know, not paying money to a porn star to keep her mouth shut during a campaign, not hoarding classified documents in the toilet of his rundown New Jersey estate, not fomenting an insurrection against the United States government and thwarting the peaceful transfer of power. What exactly is it that Joe Biden did that deserves an impeachment inquiry? I have no idea. And in fact, Speaker McCarthy has no idea either, because back in 2019, when they were talking about the impeachment, and I guess that would have been the first impeachment of the former guy, he said that Nancy Pelosi, Speaker at the time, couldn't launch an impeachment inquiry without a full House vote. The Speaker doesn't even have his own caucus in line to be able to vote for an impeachment inquiry. He's got a 4 representative majority, 4 Republican votes. He can't lose, or he loses whatever vote goes into the House, because of course the Democrats are going to vote against any impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. So he can't even get a majority of Republicans on the side of an impeachment inquiry, much less a majority of the House. And we all know this is a stunt, and it's embarrassing that the media even has to ask questions of other senators and other representatives about what's going on in the House as anything other than a political stunt. This is the same Kevin McCarthy who in 2015 admitted that the numerous hearings that they held over Benghazi were all designed to get Hillary Clinton's poll numbers to drop. And of course, this impeachment inquiry that's going on right now from McCarthy and the Republicans is to to distract and deflect away from the fact that the leader of their party is indicted in 4 separate jurisdictions. I mean, talk about Republicans in disarray. You got Matt Gaetz, the Mr. Venmo there, who's calling for a resignation of the House Speaker. There's a new rule they put in for McCarthy to become the Speaker that said any one representative can call for a vote of no confidence in the Speaker, and they could have a new speakership election. And remember, the last time we had this speakership election with the Republicans, they were in such disarray. It took, 13, 14 votes? It went on through the night. Can you imagine what the next one will be like? Absolutely no governance going on here because they can't even decide on how they want to muck up the government this time. Things aren't going much better over there in the white supremacy veto chamber. I mean, the U.S. Senate, where you've got Senator Tuberville from Alabama, who is blocking over 300 military promotions to the top spots because of woke abortion care military junk that he's supposedly upset about. Yeah, this is just a disgrace to what's going on here. In the Joint Chiefs of Staff, there are 3 positions that are unfilled right now. The heads of our military, 3 positions are unfilled. We got military leaders going on the television every weekend to talk about how this is hurting national security by not getting these promotions. And just imagine, this is the party that's support the troops. You got to support the troops. And yet we've got these career officers, guys that are moving up to full bird colonel or general in some cases, that they've worked their whole lives. They've dedicated their entire lives to the United States military and worked their way up through the ranks in one of the few egalitarian institutions we actually have in this country. And then to be denied moving up into that position because there's problems with them reading poems on ships. Yeah, Tuberville was complaining that the military is so woke, they're reading poems on ships. You know who else read poems? General George S. Patton. You know what the national anthem is? It was a poem written on a damn ship. This is ridiculous. And of course, we should expect this from Senator Tuberville with, his vast military experience. And I'm sorry, what's this? Oh, Senator Tuberville was a football coach, and not even a good football coach. This isn't Senator Nick Saban we're talking about. This is Tuberville, for God's sake. So why is he holding these positions up, jeopardizing our national defense? Well, a lot of cynical people are saying that this is a fingers crossed thing, that Trump gets reelected so he can pardon himself from going to prison, except not in Georgia. But the idea here is with those open military positions, if Trump gets elected, Trump can not put these guys in and put some hand-picked loyalists in so that next time they try that coup, it'll be successful. And of course, also still looming over on the House side is the threat of a government shutdown. See, part of the job of the House of actually governing is controlling our nation's finances, and that's done through an appropriations process, which has a deadline of September 30th, meaning that as of today, they've got about 11 working days to come up with passing the spending bills to keep the government functioning. And of course, this is Matt Gaetz and these Freedom Caucus far-right wackos who, by the way, their membership is secret now. You don't actually know who's in the Freedom Caucus. You just kind of have to infer and guess. But there's about 12, 13, maybe half dozen more of these far-right Republicans that are holding the American people's checkbook hostage for their demands. And their demands, of course, is, well, they got to build the wall. We got to build the wall, keep foreigners out, got to reduce asylum, even though we've had more people being stopped now during the Biden administration. But never mind, we've got to stop those people coming into the country because Lord knows we all want to see white folks picking strawberries, don't we? Yeah, I want to see some white folks hunched over and picking some radishes. That's going to happen sometime soon, ain't it? We all know we're all kidding about this asylum, build the wall stuff. What it is about punishing brown people to try to score political points because you really like the brown people when they're picking your radishes and your strawberries and washing the dishes and mowing the lawns. I see plenty of them in your gated neighborhoods when I'm driving around. And this cry of the Department of Justice being weaponized. All the Department of Justice is being weaponized by, investigating and prosecuting people who commit crimes. even if they're Republicans. Oh, goodness. Yeah, so we got to stop that weaponization or else we're just going to shut the government down. And oh, yeah, let's go back to the woke military. Yeah, the woke military that has the diversity and equity and inclusion, the DEI. Conservatives, they're afraid of anything that has 3 letters that's not ATF. So they are all freaking out because the U.S. military actually understands that diversity is our strength and that we have a stronger military if we pull from people from all backgrounds. I mean, kind of a lesson we learned in World War II with the Navajo code talkers, right? That diversity came in real handy, didn't it? So they hate the idea of anything that promotes that anything other than the straight standard white Christian male status quo is the default setting in America. And of course, they're upset also that our pregnant soldiers and sailors and service people can still access abortion care through the military medical services. We got to stop that because we want our pregnant soldiers to be taken off the front lines. Well, I don't know what the reasoning is, but they just hate it. And of course, they hate the fact that we are supplying the freedom fighters in Ukraine with the assistance they need to beat back the aggression of Vladimir Putin trying to reinstall the Soviet Union of the old Cold War era. They hate that too. So for all those reasons, they're holding the government hostage, and possibly after this month is over, we could see another government shutdown. All right, government shutdown. How bad could it be, you might be thinking? Well, basically, all of the non-essential functions of the federal government have to stop. And the essential functions of the federal government have to keep working, but the people doing those jobs, in many cases, don't get paid. They have to go to work for free or quit their jobs and then try to find a new job that has the kind of benefits and pay that a federal job has. So some of the things that would be affected here in a government shutdown, there would be, you'd still get your Social Security checks, you'd still get, your coverage for Medicare, but no new applications could be processed. So if you just turned 65 or whatever the year is, or you just got a serious medical condition that now qualifies you for Medicare, or you drop below a certain poverty line, whatever the reason is, you can't get your application processed. It's going to be an even further delay because Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all those types hate the fact that they read poems on ships or something. The EPA and the FDA have to shut down some of their inspections. So our air, our water, our food, our drugs. You might get a bad hot dog. Who knows what might happen, because all of the Freedom Caucus guys are really upset that soldiers can get abortions. The national parks will shut down. So forget visiting, Yosemite or Mount Rushmore or Yellowstone, any of those kind of things. Those will be shut down for you. So no fun there. The TSA workers, I mentioned some of the workers that don't get paid, that still have to go to work because they're essential. TSA is on that list. You know how much fun TSA is, right? Yeah, we love TSA when we're going flying through the airport. Now imagine talking and dealing with those people when they haven't had a paycheck for 3, 4, 5 weeks. Wouldn't that be fun? Also, government shutdown means no new health and human services grants. And in many cases, that has to do with block grants that go out to the states. And when those grants to go out to the states then have to cover those funds themselves. In many cases, this ends up with states having to dip into their own funds for TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, cash welfare. They have to dip into those funds to cover other things. And then people who need those welfare checks don't get those welfare. It's just a cascading failure. And the SNAP and EBT system, so that's food stamps, right? SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and EBT, Electronic Benefits Transfer. These are the welfare systems for food and basic needs, diapers, and those kind of things that you get. Well, those will still work for a time, but the stores that take EBT, they have to be relicensed. Their licenses expire. They have to renew. Those licenses won't get renewed during a government shutdown. So if your store ends up their license is done, boom, EBT's cut off. You can't use your SNAP card there anymore to get your formula for your baby or whatever. And of course, no look at how Republicans don't want to govern would be complete without taking a look at Georgia inmate P011358809, the former guy who is the clear 2024 Republican presidential nomination favorite, facing 91 felony counts in 4 different jurisdictions. state counts in New York for the misdirection of funds to pay off porn stars to keep their mouths shut before the 2016 election. In Georgia, the election fraud case trying to get Brad Raffensperger to just find 11,780 votes. Again, remember with those Georgia state charges that the governor of Georgia cannot pardon someone convicted of felonies. Only the pardon board can do that. And the pardon board can only do that 5 years after they've served their sentence. And the sentence in what this former guy is charged with carries mandatory minimums of 5 years. So Georgia looking real bad for Trump there. And don't forget Florida, the espionage case. People call this the classified documents case and mishandling classified documents. Folks, when you are stealing the nation's secrets and keeping them for whatever nefarious purpose you might devise, that's espionage. That's spycraft. That's some James Bond stuff, okay? Let's call it what it is. And of course, in D.C., the insurrection fomenting, attempting a coup, thwarting the lawful transfer of power. And folks, I know there's people that question, well, maybe Trump was just having a speech and just got out of hand. Sure, all right, I'll give you that. Once the insurrection was happening, he let it continue to happen for the next 3 hours. And when Speaker McCarthy made phone calls to try to get it to stop, he didn't call Antifa. He didn't call Joe Biden. He was calling Donald Trump because he knew who caused it. Try and come up with any accomplishments of the Trump administration that are anything positive for the American people, anything lasting throughout history that will go on regardless of his legacy rotting in a Georgia prison. I can really only think of one Trump lasting accomplishment, and that would be the Space Force. That's right, the United States Space Force, a new branch of the military, but gosh, there's something that seems kind of familiar about that. Oh yeah, that's right. In his one signature accomplishment, Republicans couldn't even come up with something unique, something original. This is another place where the left side of the political spectrum just so outshines the right, and that is in creativity. Because even in creating Space Force, Donald Trump had to rip off Star Trek, one of the most liberal, progressive, woke television shows that ever existed, a franchise that to this day is preaching tolerance and diversity and equity and welfare and charity and compassion and understanding and cooperation, everything the Republicans absolutely hate. And for the cherry on top, what do we call these people in the Space Force? Space cadets? Is that what we're going to be? No, it's the Guardians, the Space Force Guardians. Again, just amazing. They can't come up with anything unique or original. Republicans don't have an original thought in their head. They cannot govern, and they do not want to govern. I'm Radical Russ, and that's the rant.